My entire life, I have been dreaming of the moment when I graduate college, move out of my parents' house, start my new life, live the American dream, get a house, become wealthy, travel the world. But lo and behold, we have me here 2 whole years after graduation, sitting in front of a camera in my parents' house. So what happened? You see, thankfully I'm not broke. I make more than enough money as a 6-figure software engineer to move out if I really wanted to. So in this video, let's talk about why I actually ultimately decided to live at home after graduation. In that, what serious changes happened in my life and goals, and what are some pretty bad consequences of me actually making this decision. So I graduated from college in May of 2022, and exactly 1 month after that, in June of that year, I moved out to San Francisco to start at the job that I currently work at as a software engineer. I was super excited, literally my dream city. I've seen so many videos of days in the life of people living in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was like, this is perfect. I'm gonna be making a lot of money, networking with rich people in tech while living my best life in a big city. So I was super pumped, the American dream I was living. Until I got there, and I quickly find out San Francisco isn't really what it used to be. Obviously, we all know it's expensive. I mean, I was paying $2,500 every single month in rent alone. And before you start thinking, obviously it's expensive, but you're living in a super nice place. Wrong. The streets were super dirty and it was really unsafe. I quite literally witnessed a robbery happening in front of my eyes, people getting chased by cops, and that was almost like just common there. On top of that, the main reason I wanted to move to San Francisco in the first place was to network and meet people, but that wasn't really happening. No one at work was coming into the office, people were still scared of COVID, and there were no policies requiring you to come in, so no one came in. So yes, I was paying $2,500 every single month to just sit and code in my apartment that was unsafe and dirty. My job was also remote, so it was kind of irking me at this point every single day that I chose to stay in the city. And so, within exactly 3 weeks of moving to San Francisco, I decided to move out. I was done with the city. It did not live up to expectations whatsoever, but I still didn't want to move back home. I still wanted my adult life, freedom, and the mentality of achieving the American dream. So I decided to move to Atlanta. I went to Georgia Tech for school in the city, and a lot of my friends were still in college at the time, and I thought that this was perfect. During the day, I worked my 9 to 5 while they attend classes, and during the evenings, we could chill out and have fun. And it was actually great. I joined all the same clubs and activities that I did back when I was in college as a student, and every single week, I did something that was pretty fun, and that's exactly where my next problem came. Life was too comfortable. I was working and having fun, but I felt like I was a student again. I wasn't really advancing in my life or career in any substantial way. I mean, the reason I wanted to move out after graduation was to advance my life, not to stay as a student. And on top of that, I wasn't really active on social media or YouTube because I never dedicated the time or money to focus on this. I was just like, okay, I did my 9 to 5 work, now let's have fun. And it was kind of like this state of stagnancy, not really improving in my life, that was killing me at this point. And so then a few months later, in January of 2023, I said I had enough. Now I need to actually start my life. I need to actually pick things up. So I decided to move back home to Virginia to live with my parents. My mentality at the time was, I'm paying about $1,100 in rent in Atlanta. And I thought, okay, so if I move back home, I now have this 1.1K that I can use to invest into building social media or YouTube, as well as the extra time that I have that I wasn't wasting anymore. I could actually focus on proper social media strategy. And that's exactly what I did. I started investing in this room setup, for example, which cost about $1,000. I got a camera that you're watching this on for about $1,000. I bought Ali Abdallah's YouTube course for about $5,000. I was willing to spend literally whatever it took to get this right because this was my life. Rent has 0 rate of return. In Atlanta, I was spending 1.1K. I spend that money, you get a place to live, but you don't actually build anything for yourself. But this social media YouTube thing, it has a pretty high rate of return if I do it right. And so even though back then I was barely making about $20 a month on YouTube AdSense, I was willing to invest tens of thousands of dollars into this. So the big question is, did it pay out? Is living at home, despite being a 6-figure software engineer, worth it? Well, last year I spent about $17,000 in equipment, decor, editors, and services. But I only made about $4,000 back. So I ended the year pretty far in the red. This year I've spent so far $12,000 and I've made around $40,000 in return. So we are at at a net positive. And this time, so about 1 year, I've accumulated over 200,000 followers on Instagram, 100,000 followers on TikTok, 16,000 followers on LinkedIn, and just around 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's honestly pretty crazy what things can happen when you actually really bet on yourself and focus on one thing for a long period of time. Okay, but what does my life actually look like living at home with my parents? Well, I don't have to pay for rent. I don't have to pay for groceries. My mom, grandma, or sister usually cooks some pretty awesome meals, so I always have something to eat. And my commute to work is literally 15 steps from my bedroom to office room. But don't worry, I'm not into freeloading. That would just be wrong. I pay for groceries when I go and get them. I pay for family meals when we go out. And as long as you help out here and there and you don't serve as an extra burden to anyone else, pretty much everyone benefits. I also pay for my own cell phone bill and gas for the family car. The biggest advantage though is investing. Since being at home and living pretty frugally over the last year and a half, I've saved enough to put a down payment on our property, which I'm actively looking for. This simply would not be possible if I lived in San Francisco or Atlanta because I'd be spending way too much on just the essentials. I also get a serious ease of mind whenever I travel. Because I don't have to worry about rent or any serious bills, I can spend pretty comfortably on food and accommodations because, at the end of the day, as long as I don't spend that 1.1K, which I was spending in rent, I am still at a net positive. I'm still at a net win. Now let's talk about the worst thing about living at home that has been a constant struggle for me, my social life. You know how I was living in Atlanta with my friends in the last part of 2022? Well, the thing is, as soon as I left, and I left pretty abruptly, my social life went from this down to this. And I'm a very extroverted person. When I was in college, I was president of the PSA, which is the Pakistani Student Association, and I'm 100% Indian. I just joined it because I wanted to talk and meet with new people, and I loved it that much. And to go from all that to basically no social life, especially after graduating college, it is hard. It is just hard to make friends after graduating college. But over the last year and a half, I've been able to go to different spaces, mosques, community events, and pretty much recreate that. Now let's talk about what's next for me, because the last thing that I want to do is live at home forever, especially a person like me who likes change. So here's my plan. I have 4 conditions for moving out. If one of these happens, I'll move out. Number 1, if my job changes. If for some reason I switch companies that require me to go in person in a new city, well, I'll be forced to move. I won't move if I have another remote job. Number 2, if my company's RTO policy changes. If I'm required to return to the office back in California, I'd obviously have to move back there. But I wouldn't go back to San Francisco. I'd live in San Jose, which is a much nicer suburb, much cleaner and less expensive. Number 3, if I reach the age of 24 and a half. I think 24 is just about the brink of how long I'd like to stay at home. I mean, I feel like a bum if I stayed any longer than that. I also do, like I said, like change, and so I'm 22 right now, and for about another 2 years, I think that would just be about fine for me. Number 4, if I get married, because I think it would be really weird to bring someone into your life living in your parents' home, but of course, everyone has their own situations, so I'm not judging you or faulting you if that's the situation you're in. It's just something I prefer not to happen if I could help it. Well, that's about all I have in this video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and also comment down below what your thoughts are about this whole living at home after graduation situation, and if you're interested in more software engineering content, you might like this video.